Thank you for joining us here at 11 o'clock. I'm Craig McKee. For the first time, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Hamilton County Commissioners are putting forward a joint plan for renovations at Paycor Stadium. WCPO 9 News reporter Sean Delancey has been all over this story. He is joining us here in studio with more on when work could begin.
Behind us, the Ohio River, the mighty Ohio, and this is Smell Riverfront Park, of course. This is Mering Lake. It is a complete lake out here as this river has completely swollen. You can see the scooters here in the water. If you slide over a little bit further to the right side here, you can see these flower planters here, the water just to the edge. Those flower pots are usually about waist high.
Nearly 1 week has passed since historic flooding hit the tri-state, but for so many, work to clean up the damage, well, that is just getting started. Thank you for joining us here at 11. I'm Craig McKee. Tonight, WCPO 9 News reporter Marlena Lang takes us along Kellogg Avenue here in Cincinnati for a closer look at the damage the floodwaters left behind there and how people are trying to rebuild.
I'm here at the Country Fresh Farm Market. I'm surrounded by fruits and vegetables here. And when you look down the line, you have everything from California potatoes. Of course, you have Idaho potatoes, right? You have onions coming out of Utah. But one thing they've been able to do here is kind of concentrate on local still. For the instance, tomatoes, number of brands of tomatoes and varieties of tomatoes here from Ohio. If I come over here, you can see apples. This whole line, except for one, all come from Ohio growers.
Thanks so much for joining us here at 5 o'clock. We have video of some heavy downpours over Cincinnati less than 2 hours ago here. A number of areas dealing with this. Unfortunately, we are in for some more rain tonight as well, including hail and serious lightning. Many parts of the tri-state under a severe thunderstorm warning.
So let's get right over to WCPO 9 meteorologist Brandon Spinner.
Some good news about tariffs to talk about. Most of them now are on a 90-day delay as the Trump administration negotiates with dozens of other countries. But as of tonight, tariffs on China, well, they are still on. Consumer reporter John Matarese shows us how this could affect all of us so you don't waste your money.
Let's talk about your new forecast here. Another great day.
Awesome.
We saw the golfers out in if you happen to see that, the golfers out there taking advantage of this.
Right?
I think a lot of people were.
I think, I saw folks with their tops down today.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of
Car
thing,
tops.
too. That, yes, that would be something else entirely. You're right. Yeah.
Just clarifying.
Yeah, but probably a good idea.
Most of the patients are stable. There are situations just like this where somebody suddenly has an emergency and the crew has to respond. You train for possible in-flight emergencies.
Correct.
While every other patient is here as well.
We train for the worst every single flight.
During this meeting, you called another commissioner a curse word that I'm not going to repeat right now.
That's okay.
You don't have any apology or take that back in any manner?
No.
Have the crops changed over the years?
Yes. Yeah, when I first started farming, 30 bushel beans was huge. And now if you don't make 60, you're not hitting average.
I think they're waiting for me to die. I'm 71 now, and I started this when I was 60.
I read through Maurice's history, and also he gave the VA permission to answer my email inquiries about his medical history and the case overall. But it wasn't just the PTSD case in question. The official VA records showed a lengthy criminal history.
Domestic violence, assault charges, child abuse, drug possession, and drug trafficking charges against me, which is a total fabrication.
The doctor who completed the paperwork, who is contracted by the VA, also incorrectly listed Maurice's discharge status. Why does it say on here misconduct and drug abuse?
You'd have to ask him.
His discharge paperwork, known as the DD Form 214 that I have right here, actually shows an honorable discharge. And I reached out directly to the VA to get Maurice some answers. The VA's response? It appears the examiner misread the information in the Veterans Claims folder regarding criminal charges. VA is working with the vendor to have this corrected and will take appropriate action to reassess the veteran's claim.
Well, tens of millions of dollars meant for veterans in Hamilton County spent on other projects.
And some veterans tell me the office meant to help them wasn't there for them at all.
How long was it before you decided to go over to the VSO to try to get some help?
Actually, so I had tried to go to them before as soon as I got out and wasn't really as successful.
Ernest Coleman, an Army veteran and Cincinnati native, says when he showed up here at the Hamilton County Veterans Services Office, the encounter led to more frustration than the help he expected. He says the receptionist was dismissive, so he asked for a supervisor.
And then a older white gentleman came from the back and he kind of had a similar energy, reiterated what she was, saying, and, just pretty much sent me on my way.
So when you walked away from that VSO, you didn't feel like you could even go back to get the help you needed?
No, I kind of was turned off.
The chatter online raises other concerns. When I asked on the social media site Reddit if anyone had any issues at Hamilton County's VSO or any other VSO, one user told me to drive to Butler County, going on to say that Hamilton is overloaded. Too many veterans, not enough service officers to handle the load. Too many opportunities to fall through the cracks.
Have you had veterans or family members, spouses of vets, come from Hamilton County to Butler County to file claims?
Yes.
Mike Farmer, Butler County's Veteran Service Officer Executive Director, tells me their system shows 634 veterans or their family members getting service from Butler County instead of Hamilton County.
Could be that the veteran is what we refer to as benefit shopping. They didn't like the answer they got, or they just want to check up on the facts. It could be that they weren't happy with the service or that there was some type of conflict.
Claremont County has seen Hamilton County veterans as well. Tom Scovanner is Claremont County's new executive director who's focused on expanding services.
So you're going to have those 6 drivers in place, and you've got 4 vehicles? 4 vehicles. And they drive anywhere from a few miles to all the way down to Cincinnati.
They just came in yesterday and said they've got a veteran who the VA says they want to send to Louisville. He says, can we drive them? I said, yes. Because that's what we do.
Those service officers work with veterans on a wide variety of issues. Top of the list, pension and compensation tied to the veterans' military service.
So far this year, we've helped about $5 million worth of compensation for Claremont County veterans.
I reached out to the Ohio Department of Veterans Services to get a clearer look at the numbers. Claremont County has the 3rd highest number of veterans in our local 8 Ohio County area, with 12,255. They processed one of the highest number of claims last year at 2,054.
To have a transportation system in place, how critical do you think this component is to what you do?
Oh, I think it's essential. Because especially when you start thinking about the ages of the folks that we're dealing with, a lot of them can't drive. And the policy used to be, well, you have to get to a certain place and we'll pick you up.
Right.
Well, my goal is to pick them up at their homes. Because if they can't drive to their appointment, they can't drive to that collection point.
Claremont County sits in the middle of the 8-county area when it comes to transportation, spending just over $11,000 on their fleet of vans and other contracts. Warren County tops the list at just over $1 million spent on their fleet of vehicles and personalized transportation, while Hamilton County sits at the bottom, spending just $538 last year on bus passes, according to their own reporting.
Other counties that don't spend as much money, for whatever reason, they don't. And that's their choice. But I want to maximize the effort that we can do for our veterans.
I wanted to know how much of your tax dollars each county spends, so I took a look at their budgets, and it was clear that not every Veterans Service office gets to play in the same pool of money. But the numbers show that those with less appear to be doing more for veterans than Hamilton County. For example, Claremont County spent just over $2 million in 2022 to run their entire operation, while Hamilton County, who serves more than 3 times the number of veterans, spent just over $930,000.
Could you have done everything that you do in your mission? Could you do that with $930,000?
I don't think so.
Farmer says Butler County's VSO spent just shy of $1.9 million on their operations, serving the 2nd highest number of veterans within the 8 counties.
Even with the staff that I'm fortunate enough to have, sometimes our wait times for appointments are 4 to 6 weeks, which is why we have budgeted for another county veteran service officer in our budget.
That would bring their total to 12 people. For comparison, Hamilton County, who again has the highest number of veterans with more than 41,000, has a total of 6 people in the office.
Could you do what you're doing here in Butler County with just 6 people?
I'll be honest with you, there's no way we could do it.
And regarding their transportation program,
we have found it best to contract those services out. And they provide door-to-door transportation.
They spent over $250,000 transporting more than 2,200 veterans.
I reached out 4 different times to the Hamilton County VSO's office to speak to the executive director, William Betcher, who's been there since 1991. I wanted to talk about their overall operations and what they offer veterans. His administrative assistant called me back, left me a voicemail, and told me he didn't have time to talk, and instead referred me to their website.
Eventually, the Hamilton County Veterans Service Commission president, Bob Brewster, who oversees operations, agreed to sit down with no cameras. A final phone call also didn't result in any further insight into their operations.
Why wouldn't you see a benefit to your veterans to sit down and talk about the operations and what you offer?
Hamilton County received $7 million to spend on veterans services last year and only used a little over $930,000. That's 18% of their allocated funding. It ranks at the very bottom compared to how much other counties in our area currently spend. William Betcher's own annual reports show over the past 5 years, they've given over $31 million back to Hamilton County's general fund to be used on a wide array of projects instead of spending it on veterans. Information not found on their website.
At this point, you don't see a reason to sit down and have a discussion.
So after that call, I was told the commission would meet to decide whether the executive director should speak with me. In a follow-up email, I was told, unfortunately, he has a medical issue, and with recuperation, it will be after the first of the year before that decision can be made. I'll continue to push for answers from the Hamilton County VSO as well as the Ohio Department of Veterans Services. In this investigation, I also requested the data tied to all 88 Ohio County VSOs. We're making all of that information available in the online story on WCPO.com.
Your hat says a Vietnam veteran. Are you indeed a Vietnam veteran?
I got the papers to prove it.
Starting Darrell Wick's story with that question is key because despite his discharge paperwork showing that he served on the USS Intrepid during the Vietnam War, this letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs, which denied his Parkinson's disease as being service-connected due to exposure to Agent Orange, stated he did not serve in the Republic of Vietnam during the Vietnam era.
He was on the ship, and the ship was in Vietnam. He had to be in Vietnam.
That's Darrell's wife, Ruby, who through the past 13 years of fighting for her husband's rights has watched as his Parkinson's disease has slowly taken his freedom.
I'm not greedy, but give me what I can do.
There's a photo of you with a group of sailors on the USS Intrepid. Yes. How much more documentation do you think the VA needs?
We've given them everything we've got, and their own records proved that he was there.
And the thing that upset me was the fact that they said he was never in Vietnam. He never served, and that's why they denied his claim.
Lee Monty and Dennis Kearns are with the Veteran Social Command, a weekly gathering of veterans wherein a select few help vets like Darrell through the VA paperwork process.
Since April till now, we've been really pounding away trying to get the VA to understand that he earned and is entitled to the benefits. We've tried to look under every rock, and that's why, we brought you forth to hope that you can help us.
For decades, many U.S. sailors were excluded from coverage tied to Agent Orange exposure. The 2019 Blue Water Navy Act changed that as the VA acknowledged those on ships in territorial waters of Vietnam were exposed to the chemicals by the water pumped on board.
You're thinking we're going to finally get the coverage that you've been asking for. Did that happen?
No. Continue to deny.
I reached out to the VA for clarification on Darrell's claim. The VA says the VA was unable to concede his exposure to herbicides based on the nautical location of the vessel he served on. This was done by review of the USS Intrepid deck logs and ship logbooks, which did not show that the USS Intrepid entered eligible waters while he was aboard. I downloaded those logbooks and put the coordinates into Google Earth. The red area shows the 12 nautical miles off the coast of Vietnam, and while the Intrepid mostly stayed far away, I did find a logbook entry for September 8, 1968, where the Intrepid did find itself in the territorial waters. Now, all that Darrell and his wife can do is wait for the VA's response.
It gets really discouraging and depressing for him and for all of us, actually.